What is the biggest misconception about Paul Kent?
Probably that, I'm just this grumpy bloke that is always walking around with the shits and wanting to shit pot everybody. That's not the truth. Pubs and sports have been very good at bullying journos the last 5-10 years. Mainstream media is desperate for their content, and it's never been more fiercely fought.
That night at Rozelle, you
Yeah.
were antagonised, you were poked, and you were verbally attacked, right?
I wasn't in Tottis. I walked past the place on my way home. I was walking home. Yeah, one thing we don't have in rugby league a lot of, critical thinking. It's generally as simple as, mate, you're bagging my team, I hate you.
If you were to get back into mainstream media tomorrow,
Yeah.
would you have more of an empathetic approach towards like players if they were to do the wrong thing?
Well, mate, look, I in some ways, yeah.
Paul Kent, mate, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
A pleasure. How you going?
Mate, I think it's the first time we actually met in the flesh.
It probably has. I don't know if we have. We might have it here or there somewhere, bumped into each other along the way. But
We've done a few radio interviews. I think when
Yeah.
you were at Triple M and stuff like that.
oh yeah.
Always a good yarn there. Both blokes can talk underwater. How's things with yourself, mate? What have you been up to?
I've been doing a lot, mate. Obviously, just a lot of it's very public, but within myself, just keeping to myself and just putting things in place for the next steps, which is what I've done and what I'm about to start to do.
Can you share that? Can you
Well, we're
elaborate?
going to a podcast. I did a
Yeah.
podcast last week, which is going pretty well at the moment. It's getting good numbers.
Yeah.
So doing that, and I'm just got to go down that road. It's jobs aren't easy to find at the moment for myself. But this way, I quite like this because it's, I'm sort of captain of my own ship.
Yeah.
So it's, I'm pretty excited actually. It's the early indications are really good.
I've watched the podcast and I loved it. For everyone listening, where can we find it? What's it
Well,
called?
so it's going to be everywhere. It's just called well, I'm going to have two. I'm going to have one called Kenty Primetime, and the other one's just going to be called Kenty.
Yep.
They're going to be slightly different. One's going to be a bit longer. The Kenty Primetime just talk, once a week, talk a little bit more deeply through things.
Yep.
With whoever the guests are, but also just looking ahead to footy and talking about footy a little bit more deeply. And then I'm just going to have the other one called just Kenty, which I'm going to, between us, probably start ahead of round 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be doing short, sharp ones 4 days a week. So
Yeah. Nice.
it'll
Love
be
it.
good, yeah. So they'll be just come in with the steel caps on.
Oh God.
And off we go, yeah. So that's what I'll do, mate. And
That's good.
And, it's been good. Yeah, I've had a lot of interest from people about it. So
Would you change your approach and your delivery with your takes now that you got your own podcast, or would it be quite similar to what we've seen with like NRL 360 and so forth?
Oh, mate, I don't think anyone will really notice much different. There'll be a couple of things I'll subtly adjust to.
Yep.
But I think overall, I don't think people will really notice much difference. Like I am who I am. You know what I mean? I know who I am. I know sort of what my personality is.
Yep.
So I'm quite, it's just got to be what I do, mate. You know what I mean? I'll come in, say what I think, make the calls before it, which is important.
Yep.
But I'll do all that. So I will still talk to people and have ideas and just bounce around different things. But ultimately, it's just once I sort of put all the information in, I'll sort of figure out my point of view on it,
Yep.
and I'll go from there.
Yeah, love it. And what are you doing to make ends meet? Like, how do you put a food on the table? Are you doing any work on the side as well?
Not really, mate. I was sort of doing a bit of work at the field, basically.
In a weird way, it would have kind of helped you, especially going through that tough time you went through last year, because I think it would have gave you a different perspective of life and how short life can be. Like, is that right?
Mate, it sort of it gave me, look, one, it was really good to just get away from the media and all the bullshit that's in the media, okay? And just to sit and work with just really good.
I love it, mate. I love it. Thanks for sharing that, by the way.
Yeah.
We actually got a mutual friend, Johnny
Yeah.
Elias, which
Yeah.
is a bit of a, I got to say, it was a bit of a stranger. I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
that. How are you and Johnny friends?
Oh, mate, look, Johnny and I weren't always friends. Obviously, I go back to when Johnny was playing, and he was a bit of a scallywag when he was playing.
Yes, he was.
But it sort of started one day. I moved to the area where he sort of frequents, and I just I didn't really know anyone in the area, and I went up to the pub to meet someone, and he was in the pub, and he was sort of looking across the bar at me like this, and I thought, oh, here we go. What's he got to say to me? This is years ago, by the way, but what's he got to say to me? And I bought a beer, and when I went to pay for it, the lady like, no, it's okay, it's been taken care of. And I said, what? And she said, oh, John's paid for the beer. And I gave him away, thank you. And then I went and bought a beer, and I went over and gave it to him. I said, thanks for the beer, here's your one back. And he's like, no, it's all, it's a pleasure, and all the rest of it. And then he said to me, who are you here with? I said, well, I'm waiting for someone. He said, well, sit here with me.
Yep.
And mate, that was the beginning.
Oh,
and,
wow.
But I see him most days now, like nearly every day I see him. I'll go home from this and he'll be sitting in my lounge room. You know what I mean?
I'm not surprised. He just find himself in. He just
I don't ask how he gets in.
He'll have his ways, I'm sure.
He has his ways. He's got a key. But but we're quite close, mate. And like I said, we see each other nearly every day. I'm going to have him on the podcast with me.
Well, nice.
And mate, he's an unusual choice for that. A lot of people. He was on the one last week I did. A lot of people surprised that he was there. But I will say, I think what comment there has been about it has been really positive.
Yeah.
And it's an unusual one. And he's an unusual mix with me. But I think that's sort of why as a podcast we work, because
he's very passionate.
He's passionate, mate. He's really very knowledgeable on footy, as you would know. He actually, as an ex-player, he's been able to sort of stay modern. So he still sees the game now as the game's currently being played, not as he played it 25 years ago.
Yep.
Or 30 years ago, whatever it was. So he still sees the game that way, how it should be talked about. And I just think it's really nice just to have a fresh voice. There's a lot of recycling in the media. A lot of guys they get a job here, then suddenly they're on this radio station, then they're on this, and it's the same sort of dozen players, to be honest, that are just sort of getting shot from media joint to media joint. And I think it's pretty lazy from a lot of the media, because they just look, oh, he's working over there, let's take him as well. So there's a lot of that I wanted to avoid. Like I understand that some people are stars and remain stars, and so you still got to get them on and all the rest of it. But I just think Johnny's a different voice, and I think he's a valid voice. So that's why he's on there, and so far so good.
Well, best of luck. I hope it all goes. I'm sure it's going to go well.
Just got to keep him under control. So,
yeah, exactly.
But he's good. In all seriousness, he's very, very good.
I agree. I can definitely vouch for him. He was actually the first person to hand me my first international jersey for Lebanon in 2009. He was my coach then. Yeah. And he was the last person to hand me my last
was he?
International jersey for Lebanon. He flew over to England and gave it to me. And I've got a very special bond with Johnny. I can't vouch for him enough. And I got a funny story actually. We played in Scotland in 2009, and I've never played in worse conditions than this in my entire life. It was pissing down rain. It was blowing a gale outside. The field was flooded. The elements were just not working in our favour. And we're in the sheds in this concrete box, and I'm like, he's going to bring us up here. Like, he's going to get us going, like, surely. Yeah. Anyway, goes, all right, guys, get together, wrap your arms around each other. I just all want you to bow your heads, close your eyes, and just really immerse yourself in this song. And he plays this song, and he's playing Andrea Bocelli, Time to Say Goodbye. If anyone, go listen to it. And it's definitely not a pump-up song, definitely not for a 19-year-old anyway. And we're just sitting to this song for like 3 minutes, and we went out there and we ended up getting beat. So it didn't really pump us up.
I would have pumped Johnny up though.
Definitely would have. Definitely would have.
He comes out of my place, he goes, Paul, you got to listen to this, right? And then he goes, turns the TV on, he goes on the YouTube on the TV and pulls up Pavarotti and Tom Jones.
Oh, mate.
And the fascination, though, is it's like he doesn't realise it's like he thinks you've never heard of Pavarotti or Tom Jones.
Yeah.
He's like, listen to their voices. How good's this? And you're like,
He really thinks deeply about it, which I respect. But anyway, love you, Johnny. Love you, mate.
But then someone else will come over there and he'll go, Paul, put that song on. Show him that song. He's like,
He's trying to big note.
Come on, mate.
He's all time.
But anyway, it's all fun.
Well, mate, I want to thank you again for coming on the show today,
pleasure.
and for a little gift from our good friends ShoeGrab. If you want to have a look in there, open them up and see if they're. I hope they're your style. They're a very popular shoe.
Well, mate, I tell you, it's interesting. You're trying to guess my style. It could be anything. Yeah. Oh no, they're nice, beautiful.
How good.
Hey,
P6000 Nikes,
I'll take
very
them
nice.
down the basketball court. Those ones, eh?
Mate, you can wear them with joggers, trackies. You can wear them with
nice.
jeans. They're very, very nice
Brilliant.
shoes.
Thank you very much.
Funny story with ShoeGrab. You actually wrote a little article about ShoeGrab once. I don't know if you remember. Yeah. You name dropped them. you met Jay before, just before we shot, which was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So I think it was when. Do you recall when Albert Kelly and Payne Haas had a bit of a scuffle?
Yeah.
So and they were photographed. They were photographed at ShoeGrab.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right. They were spotted at ShoeGrab Bankstown, Australia's biggest sneaker marketplace. And so they claim. I don't know. I thought, Jay's not going to forget about that. He's got the memory of an elephant. But here we are. Anyway, thanks so much, mate. I just have to put that in there. I want to ask you, what is the biggest misconception about Paul Kent?
Oh, mate, I don't know. You'd have to ask someone. Like, look, mate, look, I did a thing on Friday at a function, got up and spoke there. And I was a bit sort of uncomfortable with it, particularly because a lot of the stuff these days, when I get to ask questions, it's about recent events.
Of course.
And sometimes I just don't sort of feel like it's the mood to sort of do it, right? But I got up and I spoke, about everything, and I spoke fairly honestly. I've always been fairly honest.
Yeah.
You talk misconceptions, though. Ricky Stewart always says, he goes, mate, let people know who you are. And I'm like, mate, I don't want people to know who I am. You know what I mean? And Vonnie Sampson says the same thing to me. Just let people see more of, the other side of you. People see the thumping the table, grumpy, serious, all that sort of stuff, right? I don't take myself that seriously, mate. I can have a laugh with anyone. I think when a group, I'm good company. You know what I mean? I can sort of contribute to the conversation and have a laugh and all that. The other side, but I'm not naturally funny either. So I'm not going to try and get on with, Fletch or people who are, and try and go toe to toe with them, because you just embarrass yourself. So I don't sort of let that out when I'm on TV, because I'm just going to look stupid. You know what I mean? I don't want to sit there and try and be funny. There's nothing worse than someone who's not funny trying to be funny.
Oh.
I have a sense of humour.
Yeah.
Ricky said to me one day, he likes to always employ someone who's funny just to give everyone around the office a laugh, because I'm not naturally funny myself. He kind of is. Johnny's kind of funny himself. That's half the reason I like having Johnny around, because we have a laugh about stuff that, it's fun to have. So if you're talking misconceptions, mate, it's probably that I'm just this grumpy bloke that is always walking around with the shits and wanting to shit pot everybody. That's not the truth.
But why don't you want people? But why didn't you want people to actually know who the real Paul Kent is? Why do you want to be known as that?
It's not important to me, mate.
Okay.
It's not that I want to be known as that.
Yeah.
Right. I get known as that because I see in part of my job, I see so much fan worship now in journalism.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the journalism, the actual a lot of the integrity, particularly clubs and sports have been very good at bullying journos the last 5-10 years as media has declined in popularity, mainstream media.
That's true.
As it's declined and as the advertising has all gone. So back in the day, if you wanted to sell your car, you put it in the paper. Now you go to Cars Guide. If you want to sell your house, you put it in the paper. Now you go to realestate.com. So all that money that used to go in the newspapers in advertising is gone. So what's happened now though is sports have realised the papers are desperate mainstream media is desperate for their content, and it's never been more fiercely fought. So what they've been able to do though is they do sort of deals. We'll give you, bring in this amount of advertising or sponsorship for you, and you give us coverage.
Yep.
But increasingly there's this little sort of undertone of, but it has to be positive coverage. And if it's negative, what the organisation believes is negative, they will threaten to pull the money and all the rest of it. And media is blinked, right? Mainstream media is blinked. And so what they do now is they take that and they have this, they present this image that they are still there and what they, the long-term or long-time goal of media is, which is in many ways, whether you like media or not, you need it because you need them to be able to hold governments to account. You need them, you need them to hold authority to account, the police to account. And if you didn't have media exposing some of the stuff that goes on,
no one could be held accountable.
We could go down this track we would never recover from.
Yeah.
Sports, to a lesser degree, is the same. So stuff happens at times in rugby league. And the NRL, I've got no doubt, press on the media, don't write this or, skewed in a way that's at least offers a positive tone, or somewhat positive. And there's that sort of going on. Now, I know there is other things that if there's a footy scandal, they've just got to put their hands up and go, well, that happens. But for the organisation, that's really only minor. But for bigger things, for example, if you get information about the broadcast deals and stuff like that, there's a lot of pressure there just to keep that secret. You know what I mean? So that's all changing, mate. And that's it's having an effect on the media, and so a lot of the clubs, it's filtered down now to where the clubs will sit there, and if someone writes something that's not positive or that they don't like, they just go, mate, you're not welcome. They don't let. Now in the old days, the bosses of the game had the guts to be able to say, no, you're going to talk to him. That's what it is. You can't sit and pick and choose who your media are.
Yeah.
But that's what they do now. They pick and choose. So clubs pick and choose. And they choose to deal with their friendly media.
Of course, yeah.
And they don't deal with the entire media.
No.
They should be made to do that just to try and at least keep things sort of honest. But that's increasingly disappearing. And because that's disappearing, it's a really dangerous road we're going down. I don't have the power to change it, right? I can't stop it. I don't know if anyone can, other than those in power, but they don't want to because they're benefiting by it. But if you do that, if you don't do that, where do we end up? Who knows? But that's the road we're going down.
Yeah.
Where we end up, none of us know. But so we're going down that road, and there's and what I try to do as far as myself. So back to give you the answer too about what misperceptions of me is. When I'm on the when I did 360, for example, or when I write in the paper or whatever, at times I felt obliged to be able to say, well, I need to be the one here that's actually pointing out the bullshit in this narrative that everyone's just pretending.
Yep.
Yeah, and everyone just, it's like Vegas, right? They've all gone over there. A lot of the, they've got their tickets clipped to go to Vegas. Good luck to them. They've gone over there, and there's a prestige within the organisation to be the one to go to Vegas. I get all that. But there's one story that came out of Vegas.
Oh, fuck.
And it was the biggest beat up ever.
Yeah.
And that was the journos in such a, they've got, first, the Raiders paid the price with that fight story. They paid the price of being the only sniff of a real story in a town where there's 50 to 80 journos who are all trying to justify why they're there, right? So they all went boom. And in the rush to be out first, they didn't actually sit down, because this is the other problem with media at the moment. In the rush to be first, they didn't actually sit down and get all of the facts.
Yep.
But it's like breaking news, more to come. So the breaking news was the worst of it, though. 2 Raiders in a fight. Then we find out one of them hit the other with an inflatable baseball bat. Righto. And so the media had to backtrack. Oh, that's just a beat up. It's just a beat up. But it's beat up from what they started.
Exactly.
Because they were in the rush to be the first one to get it out there. Which, again, there's this bullshit economy out there amongst the journos to be the first to report, because you know why? That then gets the most clicks, and that then gets you more fans or more followers or whatever the terminology is. And that's again the world we're all living in now. And that's, people say to me, "Oh, I don't like this, it's bullshit." And you go, "No," I go, "You actually do like it because you contribute to it. You do the clicks. You're on social media. You're all over social media." "Oh, yeah, but I don't read that story." And I go, "But I can actually tell you do, because when you work in the media, you now supplied with figures to the click, to the individual, that can show you how many people have clicked on each story. And then all the shit stories that everyone says they don't read, they're the ones that people read."
100% they are. And I was going to say, like, are you influenced by that in terms of writing your story?
I think some are. Look, I was lucky. Look, I'm not saying I'm immune to that, okay? So I'm not sort of trying to put myself out above all that's right. But I was a columnist more than a newsbreaker. So I wrote long columns, sort of, so to speak. I wasn't there breaking news every day. So I wasn't sort of in that cycle of having to break news, look, it's a pressure job. When you're the newsbreaker, it's a pressure job to have that story and to be the one to break the story. And if you don't, there's obviously often an ass kicking. How come we didn't have this? Yeah. And I've known we've missed stories in the past, and it's just absolutely just been torn in your ass from the bosses. How come we haven't got this? But that happens. You can't be the one, but when you don't have it, you are come down from the bosses. So I understand the pressure of it, but again, it's all part of this way we're just heading. And I don't think we're in a car with at midnight with the lights off. We don't know where we're going, but we're driving there hoping we get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the way, because no one knows what it looks like. And media can't figure out what media's going to look like in 30 years. Certainly governments can't figure out what it's going to look like. No one knows. And there's a lot of unhealthy stuff that's coming out of it all now, because of this rush to be the first and to be the biggest and to have
most dramatic.
Yeah, to have the first online. But, and you put scandal in your headline, you put crisis in your headline, your story just zooms. You know what I mean? But again, like, a lot of it's just bullshit scandal. You know what I mean? A lot of it's not really a crisis.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's just bloke told another bloke who's a dickhead. That's not a crisis. That's what they do. And I was in the Daily Mail last week. Shocking revelation. He had 21 schooners and he could have drunk more. I said it as a joke. I was talking to Chimes in his podcast, and all I said was, as a joke. He said, "You had 21 beers." I said, "Yeah, but," I said, "It was over 10 hours. It was hardly championship pace, Oh, he could have had more. Paul Kent declares. I thought, mate, what about this dickhead, right? But, you know what? That's just what's become of it all, so off you go, mate, and that's just the world we're creating.
With everything that's going on in the media around you, if you were to get back into mainstream media tomorrow, would you have more of an empathetic approach towards like players if they were to do the wrong thing in terms of your articles or your takes?
Well, mate, look, I in some ways, yeah. You know what I mean? In some ways, yeah. Depends what it is. You know what I mean? I've seen certainly the other side of it. Okay. But, if a player messes up, mate, he messes up, right? So you got to talk about that, and you got to say, right, he messed up. That said, mate, I messed up, right? And I accept that. I'm not trying to, The first one was not me. That was a malicious allegation designed for a purpose, and it achieved the purpose.
That got thrown out. You were innocent.
Thrown out, completely innocent, and people still don't realise how far it was, how ridiculous it was. Even the judge was just like, look, this shouldn't have even made court, right? But that led to the second incident, which again, mate, that's all on me, right? I'm not sitting there, I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not complaining about it. And a lot of people, including people on this show, have used that as, to laugh about and ridicule me, right? And mate, I've not rung anyone to mate, can you lay off me? Can you leave me alone? Can you, right? And so, I was talking to Johnny, and Johnny said, mate, wouldn't it be hypocritical of you now to come out and comment on players doing things when you've done something? I said, John, no, it's not hypocritical because I stuffed up. Everyone had their say. I didn't complain. Everyone had their say. I didn't say to them, hey, don't criticise me or leave me alone. That's just the way of the world, mate. That's whether you like it or not, that's the way of the world. And so in some respects, when you say, would I change? Yes, I've seen the other side. I can see how things can get really twisted. Yeah. Right? And so the truth could be really twisted into something that's barely resembles what actually happened. Okay? And that's not, just my case, right? But I can see how that happens now, right? I have an intimate understanding of all that. But this brings me back to what I was talking about earlier. So if something does happen, two things. One, because the clubs, for example, say a player now gets in an incident, right? Yep. And we get a little bit of faint whispers of what's coming out or whatever, or there's been a charge or something. We go back to what it was, where the clubs won't talk to the media, firstly, so they'll tell the player not to speak. Do not speak about this. It's always because it's a statement, because it's subject of police investigation, we won't be commenting. Yes. Right? Which can be sometimes detrimental to the player because the truth doesn't get out there. So by the time the truth does get out, you've had 100 days of lies.
So what's the best way to approach it?
Well, the old-fashioned way was to find someone you trusted and have a quiet talk to them. You know what I mean? But clubs don't tell players to do that now because they don't want players trusting media.
Yes, that's 100% there is. There's definitely a barrier. It's us versus them mentality.
Yeah. But in the old days, before all this stuff went on, in the old days, I had coaches ring me up. I had players ring me up. I had senior players ring me up on behalf of junior players. And they go, mate, can we go and have a coffee and you sit down and we'll have a talk about it and he'll explain to you what happened. Now, but the other pressure on now is this other thing that I spoke about also is this need to be first. Yes. So there's a pressure to be first. And there's this mentality now, let's be first and then we'll fix any mistakes later. Right? Now, that's too late.
No, it's too late. You can't do that.
It's too late to do that.
Trust is broken.
Yeah. So I understand the mistrust from the clubs and the administration because of that aspect. Because, well, hang on, you've just written this. Yeah. That's complete bullshit. You got it all wrong. And now you want to sit down with the interview to try and tell the truth. Well, mate, you've already blown it. You've written this. So I get it all. And, I wish the game was more proactive in trying to promote the relationships, which they're not doing. Years and years and years ago, when John Quayle ran rugby league,
good man.
He rang up Peter Flingos. He said, mate, you've got to come in. I want to sit down. You're going to sit down and break bread with Warren Ryan. And he said, mate, I don't like the bloke. I can't stand him. I'm not coming in. And he said, Peter, he said the same about you. He said, but he's coming in. He said, you're coming in. He said, I can't have the game's best coach and the game's top rider not speaking to each other.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So he called him into the meeting. Didn't end well. Turned like
it was a grenade.
Made things worse. Right. But at least he tried.
The intentions were right. The intentions.
Exactly. Yeah. So he tried, right? But that's the way it used to always run. And there used to be this sort of bit of a community aspect to it where, you know what, mate, shit happens every now and then, but let's help each other. And I think a lot of players are done a disservice from clubs these days because it's pretty in their standard now of how they handle things. In some ways, it's actually the wrong way to handle it but that's just the blueprint now that they've got, and they're pretty dumb people sometimes organising these what's the word, like policies or strategies, how to handle, navigate your way through it. And I just look at it and go, mate, you're doing your player here a disservice.
Yep.
Sometimes you're better off getting it out there. And like I said, just have a quiet conversation. You don't have to be on the record sometimes. But let me just background you on what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I didn't do, right? Because again, I didn't actually trust. So getting there. But there were people who, when they heard my full story, were like, well, mate, why don't you get that out there? And I didn't trust people to do that, mate. And the people I did trust would have been clearly seen as friends, and so that would have put not a suspicion over, but a question mark over it anyway, because he's just your mate and you're looking after him.
Yeah.
So it was a difficult situation. But the people, independent from me, I didn't trust enough to do that, and I get that. But I always encouraged players that I've had relationships with to have someone in the media that they can trust and they can talk to, sometimes just about how to handle things.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I'll handle some things differently. I won't be the first out with all this news. But how it sort of unfolds, I don't know, but I'm not, as far as will I ever have a criticism of a player? Yes, I will. Is it hypocritical for me to do so? No, it's not. Like, people just have opinions, mate. Yeah. That's the truth. People have opinions, and you can't, if someone goes out and stuffs up, as I did, right? I'm not going to come out and leave me alone. It was, and try to justify it. I haven't justified it, mate. I fucked up, right? But live with it, mate. Just live with it and move on. And like I said, when the criticism came back, so be it.
Did you expect it to come back to you?
Oh, mate, it came back in folds.
Yeah,
I knew everyone had an opportunity. So many people sat there and were like, this is what I've been waiting for. He's finally, stuffed up. And they did unload, right? And so, again, to some of it was wrong. Factually wrong.
Yeah.
Factually wrong, right? Yeah. And factually damaging.
But that happens to both sides, right? Like, I think players were kind of...
No, I get that.
I don't want to say it, but the reality is people waiting for your downfall. Like,
100%.
You know what I mean? Some were.
Yeah.
You almost say all, some.
Yeah.
And I think, go back to your point where it's that us versus their mentality in terms of like the players, clubs, and the media. Like, your takes generally some of the time, like, you're pretty ruthless. Like, in terms, like, I was like, that's why I asked you, like, what's the biggest misconception about it? Because I met you today for the first time, and I think you're a great bloke. You know what I mean? I get along with you really well.
Yeah.
But then when I didn't meet you, and whenever I see you on the TV on the 360 desk, like, I've already got that defensive mechanism that, I can't trust this. You know what I mean? It's just natural.
Yeah, I get it, mate. I get it. I get that. I get that. But that, look, I never tried to be hard on someone for the sake of being hard or for the appearance of being hard, right? Yeah, there were times I made mistakes, okay? And sometimes it wasn't always immediately apparent, but I'd look back and I think, I probably didn't handle that as well as I could have.
Yeah.
So, mate, I've made mistakes in that regard, right? I understand why there's that perception out there. But I also think there were times when, what also gets forgotten, for example, is the times you do defend people. I never criticised anybody before they went to court as far as their guilt or innocence and things like that, right? That's something, I did make that, well, I want to say I never did. I did make that mistake, right? I don't want to name the player just to embarrass him again, but I made that mistake. I've since, I saw him a couple of years back, mate, and we just had a beer and talked about it, you know what I mean?
That's good.
And, I apologised to him and, fell on my sword, so to speak.
Yeah.
And him and I actually get on quite well now. I still, not a lot see him, but still see him around, him and his brother were at the pub the other day and I just missed them, you know what I mean? I said, but, so, mate, I'm not, I don't see myself as above the law and all that sort of stuff. yeah, sometimes things do need to be said. Sometimes, but in that, sometimes mistakes get made, and when it's become apparent to me that I'm wrong, I generally try and seek out the person and fix it.
Well, that's good. I mean? That's good.
But that's just life, mate. You know what I mean? Like none of us get through it without a few wounds, mate. You know what I mean? Yeah. And times, even the shit that's been said about me, like, mate, I just couldn't be a rat's, mate. You know what I mean? I'm not going. There's some people that probably won't get a favour out of me anymore, but there's other people. I just think, mate, who cares? Say what you want, mate. Like, just who cares what you say? I don't sit there and get depressed about it. I don't sit there and read it. I don't think it's unfair. Yeah. I don't think that I don't walk around kicking stones. I just think, mate, who gives a rat's ass? I've got more important things to do than worry about what some footballer who I didn't particularly like has had a go at me on Twitter. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, mate, you know what? Knock yourself out.
I commend you for that. I commend you because it's not easy. Like, you were fighting two battles. You're fighting the battle throughout the media, the mainstream media, and you're fighting battles on social media. I think as well, it's particularly mainstream media, they were quite ruthless. Like, they were pretty much attacking your integrity. They were attacking.
But that was also part of the media war. That's what happened. They play the man, not the ball there.
Yeah, because there was some articles saying that you had an alcohol problem.
Yeah, I know that, mate.
They were saying that you got a mental condition. Like, they went pretty hard on you. Like,
and then you get all these anonymous, like I've anonymous dickheads on Twitter and that saying, "Oh yeah, mate, I was there and he did this." I think, mate, I wasn't even there when this supposedly happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another bloke, you're like this. Another bloke put this thing on Twitter. Wildly wrong, right? And was really damaging to me. But it was just wrong. And anyway, I'm not on Twitter, but I had everyone, mate, have you seen this? What about this? What about this, right? And I said, it doesn't matter, so be it, whatever. And then Johnny saw it, and he was unhappy with it. And the only time he's ever done it, he found the bloke and made the bloke come to the pub and apologise to me.
I had a feeling this was coming. That's gold.
But because Johnny was with me, right? So Johnny was with me when this incident supposedly happened, and he was like, "Mate, that didn't happen." I said, "John, don't worry about it. Like, that shit goes on." And John's like, "But he was indignant on my behalf." He goes, "But Paul, I was there. That didn't happen." And I said, "Mate, don't worry about it." You know what I mean? It's all over Twitter, right?
Yeah.
And anyway, but he goes, "I think I know that bloke." He made a phone call. Here's the phone. Anyway, next minute the bloke came to the pub and apologised.
The sad reality about that is sometimes you have to like muscle people to hold them to account.
Yeah, well, mate,
especially on social media.
I just said to the bloke, I said, "Mate, look, do your best. I don't." Yeah. And he said, "Mate, please accept my apology." I said, "Mate," I shook his hand and I said, "Mate, it's accepted." You know what I mean? And moved on. You know, like, what's the point of me kicking stones over some bloke I don't know? Yeah. Saying something about me. I know it was shit what he said, right? But I can't change it. You know what I mean? I would have liked if you took it down.
Of course.
But you can't unring a bell, mate. You know what I mean? So that's the truth of it.
One thing I want to ask you, which is quite personal to you, you've been suffering with Asperger's for 10 years?
No, it's not true. I haven't been suffering with it 10 years. Look, again, see, it came out there that I'm trying to use this as an excuse, right? I wasn't using it as an excuse. I've had it my whole life.
Okay.
Right? It was 10 or so years ago that I was diagnosed, right? That said, that only came out because as part of all the court process, you've got to go through certain things, right? The courts like to know that you've been mentally assessed.
Gotcha.
Right? And so what happened, my lawyer said, "Mate, you got to go." I didn't want to go and do it, right? But I went down, had all that sort of business. But then that became, I had to go and get an assessment, right? That's because, the judges prefer to see that. It shows that you're serious about trying to present your situation.
Of course.
So I did that. It obviously came out in the report. Then, but we didn't bring it up in court, right? That only came out because as part of the documents filed, They go into the court, and then the Daily Mail went in, applied to get all my files, which they got, and they found that, and they thought in all my files, this was the most explosive thing. And then obviously as soon as they did that, they flipped it back onto me, calling people of, as soon as people get in trouble, I've got a mental health problem, and I call them snowflakes. Yeah. Righto? So, shit journalism, right? But again, that's the way it rolls. Yeah. Right? I didn't sit there and go, didn't ring them up, didn't complain. I just let it go. Everyone piled on, you hypocrite, you did this, did that. Mate, we didn't bring it up in court. And it only came up in there because I had to do this thing as part of, that's just what you do. It's one of the standard fair things, mate. You do this. So, but again, and that's, players sit there, probably watching this now going, you've got a feeling of what now we go through, right? And I do, right? And I understand their grievance, right? But this then goes back. I could have got on the phone and said and tried to massage it, right? But I didn't trust anyone enough to do that.
No, of course.
And part of me was like, fuck off, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to sit there and try and defend myself, right? I'm just going to, move on, right? You know what I mean? Who cares, right? But again, and in that way, I'm sort of ignoring the advice that I would give players about trying to find someone that you can actually confide in and have a trusting relationship with, who can actually sometimes present the other side. It didn't worry me enough that I felt I had to go out and try and do that. But it would have helped. But so
damage is done.
Look, mate, I'm just not concerned by it, mate.
Well, being critical of the Australian media in particular, you're not the only person in the last couple of weeks as well. We had Dana White come into the country and, on the quite publicly pretty called them a bunch of pussies. So I assume that you agree with that statement.
Mate, what I think the problem with Australian media, a big problem with Australian media is there's such small ownership that it's become, there's two big dogs in the Australian media in Sydney, and it's just one battle, one against the other.
Yep.
And so out of that, you get left versus right sort of arguments, and I don't think that. I think it affects the independence a little bit of the media, but I don't want to sort of get too much of that because I just don't care, mate. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be able to change it. You know what I mean? A lot of stuff already gives me the shits these days.
But there's one thing as well. Everyone says that we have a bit of a tall poppy syndrome embedded in our culture. Do you reckon that kind of
mate, everyone's got that. Mate, in America, they call it the crab in the pot.
Yep.
The crab tries to get out, the other crabs will pull it back in. And there's a Japanese saying, I think it's Japanese, the nail that sits up gets hammered down. You know what I mean? That's how they look at it. We call it tall poppy. You know what I mean?
I think the other one sounded better.
Yeah. Well, tall poppy is the one that gets cut.
Yeah.
Which is basically the same as the Japanese with the nail.
Yeah,
you know
exactly,
what I mean?
yeah.
The nail stands up, is the first to get hammered down. And so it's around the world. Yeah, we think tall poppy is unique to Australia. It's not unique to Australia.
Yep.
Tall poppy, as a name, is what makes it unique to Australia because the other nations don't do it. But it's everywhere. People feel better, mate, if they can't succeed, you're not succeeding as well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
There's a lot of people that feel that way. Mate, the people who are genuinely happy for you to succeed are a gift, mate, because there's not enough of it. Genuine happiness to see your friend succeed or someone you don't know succeed. See some bloke up the road win lotto. To be genuinely happy for them.
That's rare.
Instead of sitting there going, fuck, I wish it was me.
That's so fucking rare.
Right? They're a gift, mate. And there are people like that.
Yeah.
And they're the people you got to get around you. You know what I mean? But Dana White came out and said what he said. Mate, he called it because we sit there and we go, oh, there's too much blood in UFC. Oh, look, he was down on the ground and he's still hitting him. Mate, you know what? That's the sport. men have been fighting all their lives. Our whole existence, men have fought. It was the first sport, was two men fighting. Two men fighting, two men running. First sports that ever got started. You know what I mean? That's where we come from. Yet for some reason now we've got to deny ourselves all this and pretend that we're somehow more civilised and all this sort of bullshit.
The reality is rugby league's not for everyone.
Rugby league's not for everyone, mate. Mate, you would have seen... The thing about rugby league is if you start out as a kid, at some point you find your level. You know what I mean? At some point you sit there and you come through, you might get to under 15s and say, you know what, this is too tough for me now. I'm out, right? You might get to the local A-grade comp and you can't make the A-grade team, you can only make B-grade. But you find your level, you know what I mean? And that's what makes it such a great game, because the guys who do get to that top, mate, they've been through all the fire, you know what I mean? They've been there, they're battle hardened.
Yeah, yes.
You know, and they're ready for it. And that's what makes them such great athletes. Yeah, it makes it such a great game, is that they have got to that stage because they've been through it all. And as they're going up the ladder and all these people just start falling out, they get to the end and they're just the last few who remain.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such a terrific sport.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not biased either. I have to ask this one. You obviously have been critical of players in the past. Has there ever been a very intense exchange between you and a player that you can mention?
Yeah, I had a fight one day with
No punches thrown, like you just said.
No.
Because you never know. Daily Mail might twist that.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I had an argument with a player one day that got pretty intense, yeah. I had an argument with a coach one day, Phil Gould, when he was coaching Roosters, that I wouldn't say it got physical, but it got,
pretty heated.
It got into a bit of a stare down. He had the shits with me bad, and I was actually trying to fix it, and he just was in no mood to be,
Once you burn Gus, there's no turning back.
So we've had a blue. A couple of other things off the record, I suppose.
Of course. Have you remedied that relationship with Gus?
No. Well, look, I kind of did, and then it fell apart again. Then I did, and then it fell apart again. Then I did, and it fell apart again. And I think we've just both agreed, you know what? Life's just easier when we don't talk to each other.
I think this relationship with media and NRL is just constant. It
is, mate. Mate, it's like the ocean, mate. It's always changing, always the same. You know what I mean? So it's, that's just the way. Mate, rugby league is we talk about it being like a sort of what's the word, like a, you fight for your sort of your territory everywhere. You know what I mean? Like we're all these small. It's a tribal game. You know what I mean?
Of course.
We're all these small
That's
tribes. Yeah. So we're not. We're not China. We're Europe. You know what I mean? We've got all these little nations that are just picking at each other and this. Fight here, fight here. I love watching other people do it.
Yeah, likewise. That's why I was on the wing. That's why I chose wing. Get away from the bullshit.
When one club's got the shits with another club, mate, it can be a lot of fun. It can be a lot of fun. It just, when you're in the middle of it, it's not so much fun. But again, you got to take your turn there sometimes.
Just back to you when you were going through a bit of shit. Like you obviously got a very tough exterior, but was there any point in time where you thought this was a bit too much for me and I can't really cop the brunt of all this the perception, all this criticism? Was there any point where...
Mate, there's tough times. Like, it's not easy. I said the other day, to have the highs, you've got to have the lows, right? So there's tough times there. And there's times I was just sick to death of everything. But, mate, your only choice is to get up and go again. You know what I mean? That's the only choice you got. So there were times I was just, worn down by things, and that sort of, this has this compounding effect, you worry about, like I've lost my job, right? I've got no wage, can't get a job, got a house I've got to try and pay off, got food I want to eat. So there are worries, and then there's the legal aspect sat over my head for a long time. So I had the worry of that, even though the first time I was quite confident that everything would be all right. You still have that worry, you know what I mean? I'd never been to court before, so didn't quite really know what happened in a situation like this. So you have the fact that I'm not, I sleep only a little bit anyway. I'm not a big sleeper as such. But even I was getting an hour or two a night, and I was waking up with worry. And that sort of had the physical effect of sort of, next day you're tired and, then you get another kick in the guts and you think, whoa, here we go again. But I always just told myself, just get up and go again. That's
it's important.
Well, it's Jack Gibson, mate. And unless you got a broken leg, get up and get in the defensive line. You know what I mean? So
tough times, that's for sure.
But that's life, mate. And I don't want to look. I'm answering your questions, mate, because you're asking me. Like I don't particularly want to talk about my situation that much. But when I've come back now, I've said, for a lot of time I've had a lot of people wanting to talk to me, and now that I've come back and I'm doing my own podcast, and I've got to. Do I address it in my podcast? And then I had other people wanting to talk to me, and I didn't particularly want to sit there and use my podcast as a
story.
Yeah, and a self-justification, all that sort of bullshit.
Yep.
So what I did, mate, I made a decision, and like you've reached out before, and I was, Johnny said, mate, not ready.
You brushed me.
But others did as well, and I said no to everybody. And I'm doing this now because when I thought, okay, I need to find a way to work. I need to earn some money.
100%.
Podcast is probably the best way I can do that now. And I'm quite enjoying it, to be honest. It's very interesting, sort of, because I've no social media and all that sort of stuff. But so I'm doing that, and I enjoy what I've done so far. But I thought, okay. I've got to. People say you got to come back and address things. I didn't particularly want to, but I also know that if I don't, it's always going to be sitting there.
Yep.
And then I thought, well, I don't want to do it and use my podcast as a sob for my story. So what I then said was, I said to myself, I said to Johnny actually, mate, if people ask me, I'll do it, righto. So I've said no to nobody. Sorry.
Fox went through the same thing. He had a bit of shit he had to deal with, and he didn't really want to talk about it. He wanted to kind of move on. But the reality is, like, you've got to front up and you've got to kind of talk about the situation.
At some point, you do.
You have to.
And so I've said to everybody, mate, ask me what you like. Nothing's off limits. You know what I mean? So ask me what you like. I'll answer the question as best I can. I know a lot of it's about me. I know in some respects it's probably people go, oh, mate, this is your fucking whinge and all this sort of bullshit. But it's not that, mate. It's just I'm giving you the respect to actually answer your questions instead of coming on here and going, mate, I'm not talking about that, not talking about, and you're going to sit here and go, well, mate, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? So I'm answering the questions, but I also get a period, mate, where I think once we sort of get to it and I've done it all, I'm not going to revisit it.
Yeah, and you shouldn't have to.
No, I won't, mate.
You shouldn't have to.
So, like I said, you asked me to come on. I said yes. Others have sort of asked to speak to me, and I'll say yes to them. But at some point, once it's out, and I'm already sick of talking about myself. But once everyone else is sick of hearing from me, that's it. It's just got to get put in a suitcase and filed away and not be revisited.
Has the door been completely shut for you to step back into the world of mainstream media?
I don't know,
because you're a really good writer. Like that's known. People love your takes, especially on Fox and whatnot. I think the game needs a Paul Kent, but
it's like what Dana White said, though, mate. He called all the media pussies, right? On a bigger level, there's this thing where right now, obviously, no one wants to give me a job. And I've said this before. People want to see that you're punished. In some cases, just because they don't like me.
Yeah, I agree. Can I just, sorry, you said they want to give you a job, right? But you won't, like, I think the last court case, you got a 2-year good behaviour bond, right?
Yeah.
But let's just talk about that situation itself, because I don't think we spoke about that. Let's rewind a bit. That night at Rozelle, you were antagonised, you were poked, and you were, I wouldn't say you were visually attacked, but you were verbally attacked, right? And it was a bit of a below the belt.
It was out of line.
It was out of line. It was out of line. Can you just elaborate and give me a bit of context about that? Because I feel like you've been punished enough, but it shouldn't be like you should have an opportunity to go back into mainstream media and do what you love. No.
Well, look, I think at some point someone will. Okay, at some point someone will. If I come back and this podcast can work, and the response has been really good, like it's been really positive. Like I'm not someone. Generally, when people comment online about me, it's generally sort of, I'd like to say 60-40, but it's probably more 70-30 against me, righto? A lot of people, and a lot of trolling, all that sort of bullshit. But it's generally weighs against me, right? But the response since I've come back, when I did this podcast last week, when I did a podcast with Chimes, and we'll see what happens with your one, but
should do good, I'm pretty sure.
But the response has been, a vast majority has been positive to it, and there's been a lot of, mate, we need that kind of voice back in the game again.
Yeah.
So that's been good, and I think at some point media might understand that, mainstream media, or alternatively, if they keep going down the track they're going, they might go, mate, it's the last bloke we need. So I might never get back.
So the door's slightly ajar.
Oh, look, I don't think it's ever fully shut. Look, one thing I know about media is their convictions don't always last the full distance. You know what I mean?
Same as players.
So, So their opinion might change. Media is very quick to adjust to what the public sort of temperament
Public
is.
perception, 100%.
Yeah. So if there's a sort of a positive response in the next year or two, there might be someone go, mate, I'll give you a job. Okay? And look, who knows what's got to happen. But that's where it's at. I don't know where to go from there. If this works, mate, I might get an offer and say I don't need it. That's the other part to it.
Exactly.
I might say I don't want to go back there. I like the fact that I'm going to be my own boss. You know what I mean? I'm not going to have, HR sitting people down next to us like they've done just as spies to try and catch people out and do things like that. So I don't know, mate. I really don't know where it's going. As far as that night goes, mate, it's funny. I've got the vision at home, that CCTV, and I don't know whether I could actually release it or not.
Why would you?
Because in it, you can see me walk past the bloke. You can see me stop when the guys with both stop. We're probably 10, 15 yards past him. I turn around, and as I turn around, a couple of blokes look at him like that. So clearly, he can't hear anything. So clearly, you can hear him say something.
What did he say?
He said to me, are you going to the march tomorrow?
March?
There was a domestic violence march in Sydney.
Fuck.
And I ignored that, right? I just kept walking. And then he goes, oh, no, that's right. You like to bash women. So that's when I stopped. And that's when everyone looked at him like that. And I turned around and I said, mate, who said that? And he said, I said it. I said, mate, not cool. I said, apologise for that. And he said, fuck off, keep walking. And I said, no, hang on a second. I said, mate, there's some things you can't say, right? And he did it again. And then I said, okay, all right. So, mate, you're sitting there and you're one of those blokes. You've waited till I walked past. You didn't say it when I was in front of you. You waited till I walked past and give me the shit remark when I've gone past you. He had his jumper around his waist. He took it off, gave it to his mate, and walked up on me with his fist clenched. I thought, oh, okay, here we go. And he did that, and I stood there, and he sort of got close to me where, there's that little distance you got to sort of hold sometimes.
Yeah.
If you
don't know if it's on or
you know what I mean? But he stopped at that. He walked back. Both stages we were arguing. I was just like, mate, apologise. And he's abused me. And that's when I started. I called him a dog and a dog head. And anyway, so there's that bit of back and forth. And then he did it 3 times, came back on me. And, I was walking down the road, sort of, there's me and my mate, there's him and, I don't know, 3 or 4 of his mates. And in my head, I'm trying to think, what do we do here? And, I thought, do I go down there and if they follow us down there, what happens? In the dark sort of stuff. And in the end, I just thought, mate, you know what? Like, it's going to happen. I was certain it was going to happen. If I had walked away, which everyone said, why did you just walk away? I felt like I would have been followed.
Yeah, right.
Right. So I thought, okay. And then that's what I just thought, mate, you know what? Take the initiative. Look, it didn't pan out well. Right.
Well, it was like, 30 years younger than you?
Yeah. And I said about that, I said, man, I've got no ground game. Yeah, so, right.
I don't mean to laugh.
but that's what it was, mate. You know what? And that's, and again, I'm not offering an excuse. I'm not asking sympathy. I'm just saying that was my thought process. Okay. And
what made him want to say that though? Like, did you have any interactions with him throughout that night? Like,
I was walking past.
That's all it was. Like,
I was walking past. I didn't know the bloke from Adam, mate. I'd walked past him. One bloke, like, bloke said to me, he said, mate, I've a friend I know who lives not far from there. He said, mate, I've had 4 people come up to me and go, mate, I know he's your mate, but if you'd seen the way he was carrying on in Tottis that night, you would have, you'd agree he got what he deserved, right? I wasn't in Tottis. I walked past the place on my way home. I was walking home. I wasn't in Tottis, but people going, mate, I was carrying on like a mug in Tottis. Well, I wasn't in there. You know what I mean? But that's just the shit you deal with, right?
Living at the moment.
But I didn't know the bloke. I just walked past and he just thought he'd be a smart ass and yell stuff out. And, and funny thing is, if he said that online about me, everyone would go, oh, mate, not cool. You can't say that about a bloke, right? But apparently you can't defend it now when they say it to your face. So.
How did the court process happen? Did he press charges? Did you press charges? Like, what?
No, the coppers arrested me.
Okay.
Yeah. The coppers arrested because there's a lot of pressure on the... I don't think I should have been arrested, to be fair, right? There would have been 100 more serious incidents that night in Sydney. I didn't throw a punch. Well, didn't land a punch. He didn't land a punch. The only damage that got done was me. He didn't... He said he got a lump on his head when he got tackled off me, but that wasn't me that did that. I didn't touch the bloke other than when he grabbed me and threw me. So out of that, there's a lot of journos ringing up the coppers going, "Are you going to charge? You're going to charge? You're going to charge?"
Of course.
And I think I empathise with the cops, right? They're in an unenviable position there, right? Because they look at it and they think, mate, seriously, of all the shit we deal with, this is like at the low end and this is like a nothing. And they don't want to sit down and bog themselves down in the paperwork and all that shit and have to go in and give evidence against me and all this sort of drama, right, for something as I thought trivial, right?
Yeah, it was.
But if they don't, they come under criticism because it looks like they're doing me a favour because people don't know what happened, right? They see the video and there's, one, we don't know what happened, but there's also this emotional reaction from a lot of people who, because I said their team shit, wanted, well, fuck you, I want you, why is he getting charged? Like, that's the mentality of a lot of people. Yeah, you bag my team, so you're an arsehole, so now I hope you get charged. And you're thinking, mate, seriously, they're completely different scales here, right? You know what I mean? But that's how the footy fan looks at it sometimes, mate. But there was a lot of pressure on the police to do that, and they, I think they took the safe route. And I'm not angry at the police about it, but I understand the dilemma they're in. And it's just, they just did what a lot of business and a lot of government do these days. They just took the route that's less trouble. Yeah. You know what I mean? It caused them less headaches by doing it. You know what, just charge him. Let the courts get the shits because the courts will then go, well, mate, what are we doing here? Yeah. And that's how they sort of get chocked up with a lot of this stuff. Like, but anyway, that's sort of where it happens, mate. Yeah, and that's what happened on the night. But so be it, I mean, like it's, you know, I can't change it, mate. So
Did you end up quashing it with a gentleman that was involved?
I've never seen him again, mate.
Never seen him again.
No, I've never seen him again. Only time in my life he's ever come into it was that 5 minutes.
It's weird how that shit happens like that. The I think in our toughest and darkest times, our real friends really come out and show you support and their love for you. How many people really came out in that tough moment for you?
All of them, mate. All my friends did. You know, and that's, you know, like...
When you say friends from outside of work and inside of work, so...
Yeah, both.
Your the Fox family and...
Yeah, just friends that I've known all my life. Yeah, friends I haven't heard from for, you know, I grew up on the Central Coast. So friends I hadn't heard from for years from the Central Coast because I haven't been back there much. You know, you okay? Anything you need? If you need anything. So, mate, I didn't lose a friend out of this. You know, I mean, they know who I am and whatnot. And, you know, there's a lot of, you know, a lot of people within the game were very good. The people who probably distanced themselves a little bit were the people who probably wasn't, I wouldn't call a mate. And in some cases I understood it because, yeah, without sort of naming people who did sort of just sort of park things a little bit, there are some people who, if I had gone rogue and come out and said, look, well, I'm still friends with this guy, and he sent me a text the other day, if I had sort of put that out there in some attempt to justify myself or whatever, it would have been embarrassing to them, right? They would have been asked, why are you still supporting him? And I would not put them in that situation, but they sort of also stepped away a little bit just to protect themselves. Yeah. And I get it, mate. I get it. Like, I'm not an idiot. You know what I mean? I'm not precious about all this bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, shit happens. You know, and so I get it. I'm not holding the grudge about it. Yeah, that's life. That's the way it happens. You know, I'm not sitting there and why you know treating me like this. Do your best.
Desk on NRL 360.
I miss aspects of it.
And what do you miss about it? And what don't you miss about it?
Oh, mate, I miss talking footy sometimes. You know what I mean? But I don't miss. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that job. You know what I mean? I don't think people sort of understand it.
I don't.
Because you're under constant criticism from everyone, and everyone like I know I'm critical on the thing, but it can come at you from all angles at times, and often it's one thing we don't have in rugby league a lot of, which is a frustration of mine. But one thing we don't have a lot of is critical thinking, where people can actually sit there and want to be or want to actually listen to an opinion that's inconsistent with theirs, but want to listen to it because they want to know the reasons why and maybe hear something that they haven't heard before.
Yep.
In rugby league, it's generally as simple as, mate, you're bagging my team, I hate you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's you know, for example.
You can come up with all these, justifiable facts.
Yeah.
You present this argument.
Doesn't matter. And sometimes I would sort of sit there and just play devil's advocate, and I would not say, I think this. I would say, what if this was a situation? And then people would attach that as my opinion, which was not my opinion. But I always used to say to people when they come to the show, if they say if they're going to argue black and I said I'll argue white, they would... they go, oh, I won't say that. And I go, no, say it, because there will be someone out there who agrees with you, right? And I said, and if you say it, then at least they feel like they're being heard. So I used to encourage people to say, even if there's a different opinion to mine, but I said, I will say this back to you. I'd say, but think about how you're then going to answer me.
That's dangerous though, because you're not really speaking your mind and how you truly feel about a certain topic, right?
But mate, that's rugby league now. No one really. Who really speaks their mind?
Well,
That's my issue.
I'll tell you straight up. I was just not. I never burned bridges with the media. Like I never used to have the mentality of like me versus them. Like I always, you know, respected everyone. They respect me. I respect you.
Yeah.
But the reality is, a lot of players put on a facade and put on a mask whenever we front up with the cameras, which is a natural defensive mechanism.
That's what I'm saying. That's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. A lot of people don't. The amount of times you hear, or you have discussions with people who say, who can offer their opinions the opposite of what they'll say on TV.
That's the whole purpose of this podcast.
Yeah. But what they do, mate, is they want to swim downstream. You know what I mean? They want to, because it's just less hassles.
Yeah, of course.
But the only fish to swim downstream are the dead fish. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But there's not a lot of people go, well, hang on, that's not quite right. Or hang on, what about this? Have you thought about this? There's not that analytical thinker that's out there, and there's not a lot of that. And I'm sort of, I would sort of try to bring that. When Icon and I did it, he was very good at listening to me.
Yes.
And he was very good at challenging my thoughts. So he would sit down, we would sit down, we'd sometimes on the show just go down a rabbit hole together and into areas we'd never even discussed off camera, right? And we would just sit there and just have this conversation where we'd almost get lost that we're on TV. But he was intelligent and I'm, hopefully somewhat intelligent. And so we looked at considerations within things that we both sort of fascinated each other, I think, sometimes. And but as I said, for a lot of fans just watching the show, I'll give you the example. When Melbourne got caught cheating the salary cap, and everyone's going, well, what's going to happen to them? And I said, well, look, they've got to lose their comps, right? The premierships they've won. They were cheating when they won them. They have to be taken off them. Everyone said, no, that's too much. And you're like, well, hang on. That means that, the penalty, the risk outweighs the penalty.
Yes.
The reward outruns the risk, right? Let's try and cheat, because if we don't, we'll win the comp. And if we do get caught cheating later, we still keep them. So they had to lose them. Yep. That's just, right? Parramatta fans love me because Melbourne beat Parramatta in the grand final. Yep. And Parramatta fans have been waiting for a premiership so long. So they're like, mate, good on you, Canty, all this sort of bullshit. Was it 6 years later, Parramatta got caught cheating the salary cap? Same Parramatta fans who 6 years earlier were cheering me.
They had their pitchforks and torches.
And they're into me. So, and you just hate the club because you couldn't play more than one game there and all this sort of bullshit, right?
Yep.
I go, mate, no, they're cheating the salary cap, mate.
Yeah.
But it's the same. It was the same fans, and they had this massive shift in opinion, not because information was different or the logic was different, but because the team was different. Because it wasn't another team, it's suddenly their team.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
they put under the microscope.
So how do you sit down and have a conversation with people like that?
Well, when you put it that way.
But that's why in this job, at least in politics, you've got basically left and right.
Yep.
And that's it. Rugby league, if you talk honestly about rugby league, eventually they'll all hate you. Because eventually you'll say something about their team that they don't like.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, you say, well, I think their forwards are not up to it. I think they're going to get the spoon this year. I don't think they can make the finals. I think they've bought poorly over the off season. Mate, everyone just hates on you.
Yeah.
You shouldn't say that.
I think it just goes back to the point where you just can't please everyone and you can't, no one's going to accept you.
Josh,
you could be the biggest saint in the world, but there'll be one person out there that has a problem with you.
But Josh, that's why I don't try to please them. Because I've realised, mate, I can't please every rugby league fan.
Yep.
So I've just got to sit there, and that's what I say to everybody that used to come on the show. I say, mate, just be true to yourself, be true to your values.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. Some people are more forgiving than others. Some people aren't. Some people understand things deeper than others. Whatever your thoughts are, just be consistent with that. Because if you do, and there's a few in rugby league that do this, you'll talk to one guy and he'll tell you something. 3 days later, he's saying the opposite to someone else.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of people go, you ring up and you say, mate, what about Manly? What do you think? And they go, mate, I thought it was pretty poor. Yeah, mate, it's poor. Right? 3 days later, another journal ring. I go, what about Manly? Well, what do you think? Same bloke. Oh, I think they're going all right. Yeah, I think they're going all right. You just, mate, you know what I mean? Because they just they don't want to upset anyone.
Yeah, I get that.
But they end up being in conflict with themselves because hang on, and fans are very good at picking up inconsistencies
and bullshit.
and bullshit, right? So, and a lot of fans don't really cop a lot of the shit that's been spoken about these days because they see it as just mouthpiece sort of stuff. They see it as just saying what everyone's expecting them to say because it's the easy way. Exactly. I know that. Yeah, I didn't go that way. I was
I think
doing
that's
the
why
hard
fans respect you though as well.
Yeah, but that's who I. Yeah, that's who I am, mate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, it's just.
You say how it is.
It's just who I am. But I also understand that other people go the other way because it's just less grievance. And there's times I just thought, you know what, I just love to come out and just say, I think it's wonderful. Just so everyone leaves me alone. You know what I mean? But I just don't, mate. I don't know why.
I respect that.
You know, and
I respect that.
You get up for the fight. Yeah.
Well, I've asked you quite a few questions, but our next question is not actually coming from me. It's coming from Addin Fonua-Blake. So we've got a segment within the show. It's called the mystery question. So our previous guest will write a question for our next guest without knowing who it is. So it's coming from Addin Fonua-Blake. It could be anything.
He doesn't know it's me.
He doesn't know it's you.
Oh, see, he's going to be filthy about this because he's going to think opportunity missed.
Have you had a bit of runnings with him before?
Yeah, we've had our chats.
He's one bloke. I don't want to be on the bad side of.
Yeah, no.
Pick up the envelope whenever you're ready.
This will be interesting.
Yeah, I know.
I wish he'd sort of known it was me in one way. It would have been a vastly different question, I imagine.
He played well over the weekend.
Yeah, he did.
Big fella.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got?
Who's the biggest role model in your life? That's a good question, actually.
That is a good question.
Role model in my life. I don't know how to answer that, to be honest.
You can take all the time you need as well.
Yeah, I know. You'd probably need an answer quickly here.
No.
Mate, I don't. I've obviously, obviously my parents have been very big in that respect for me, which is, a true answer but a boring answer. I'd say that, mate, to be honest, which is pretty boring, but they've been, they've lived a very, very exemplary life, to be honest. Married 55 years. So.
Wow.
No, it's good. Yeah, it's probably them, mate. But that's a good question, actually.
Yeah. Have you been asked that before?
No, I've never considered it before, to be honest. Like I've got journalism. I've got people I sort of respect and aspire to, and stuff like that. But not really that I've sort of, what's the word? Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, you now got the opportunity to write a question for our next guest, and now being a good
Without
writer,
knowing who it is.
being a good writer,
I'm going to have to come up with something. So,
no pressure.
We'll see how it goes.
Righto. Got your question in mind. Really looking forward to it. Don't tell me the question, by the way. That's the whole mystery of it. Mate, next couple of days, will you be shooting your podcast?
Yeah. Next couple of days I'll start.
Yep.
I'll knock it off, and then next week I'll probably go full tilt. And really, really get into it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I'm just going to finish this question.
I've already got it.
Yep. I like it, mate, too.
We going deep with this question, or is it?
I'm always going deep, brother.
Oh, mate, keep it PG.
You like that? Straight onto it. There you go. I can't show you that. Is that right?
No, don't show me.
Oh,
don't show me. That's gold. Sign it.
I sort of got a little bit of a second bit to it, but that's all right.
That's all right. That's fine. More the better. Beautiful.
Done, mate.
Chuck it to the side, mate.
I'll put it in the envelope.
Beautiful.
All right, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Mate, thank you for coming on and taking the time. I know I asked you some hard-hitting questions.
That's all. Like I said,
And,
mate, I was going to answer anything you asked.
Mate, I actually appreciate you coming on because, like I said, I had a different perception of you before without actually meeting you. And now that I've got the chance to meet you, exactly. Yeah. With everyone, I guess. And, mate, I want to wish you all the best with your own podcast, your future endeavours. And, mate, I don't think this will be the last time we see Paul Kent on the TV screens, that's for sure.
Let's see, eh? I appreciate it, Josh. I really do. Thank you for everything.